In this video, America's favorite bear is Smokey the Bear. I take you on a unique journey through the heart of America's backroads and to a lesser-known landmark. As a traveler and backroads enthusiast, join us as we explore the history behind the iconic Smokey the Bear, a symbol of wildfire prevention and the preservation of America's forest. Whether you're an avid traveler, nature lover, or history buff, this video will offer a fascinating glimpse into one of the most memorable figures in U.S. history, and you'll learn why Capitan, New Mexico is his hometown. Travel across America with me. Later in this video, I'm going to be telling you some statistics about Smokey, some of the things you might have picked up during the rest of this video, but be sure to hang on to the end when I tell you some facts and stats about America's favorite bear, Smokey Bear. Did you know that Smokey the Bear was born and buried in New Mexico? Well, he was. I didn't really know much about Smokey Bear, where he came from, how he became the icon, and his final resting place? Yes, it's here in Capitan. Hang on and let me tell you a little bit more about America's favorite bear. After visiting the Valley of Fire's recreation area, we traveled southeast on U.S. Highway 380 to reach Capitan. As you travel to Capitan, the elevation rises and so does the scenery. That is, if you like mountain scenery. Let's roll in to the small town of Capitan. Quaint shops, small restaurants, but what we are looking for is the Smokey Bear Historical Park. Here it is. Let's pull in and find a parking spot. This is part of the New Mexico State Forestry Service. Makes sense. We're going to see Smokey the Bear's park? Of course it's part of the Forest Service. He is an icon of the forest. Let's go in and see what we find. A Smokey Bear postmark? Yes, isn't that neat? In May of 2015, Capitan, New Mexico had their own postmark. When we went up to the counter to pay, there is an admission fee. Make a note, they're closed on Mondays, so don't go on a Monday. The ranger behind the counter was super kind. She gave us all kinds of stamps. Because we were going to a state park, I wasn't even thinking about taking my passport book. She was kind enough to give me a couple of sheets of paper so that I could take home the different stamps that they had. And boy, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus bear prints. How cool. There is a lot of information here, and you'll just have to go and visit to read all the signs. But let me tell you about Smokey the Bear and how it all got started as I show you around. You know, Smokey is the world's most beloved bear. The original Smokey Bear was a 1944 advertising campaign that was created during World War II to raise public awareness of the dangers of human-caused wildfires on national forests. Then, on May 9th, 1950, a badly burned bear cub was found in the aftermath of a devastating fire in the Capitan Mountains of New Mexico. As I tell you more about how we got Smokey the Bear, this is the true story of Smokey Bear. The village of Capitan, New Mexico has a unique place in history. Capitan is the birthplace and final resting place of the world's most famous bear, Smokey Bear. On May 4th, 1950, a human-caused wildfire called the Los Tablos Fire started in the Capitan Mountains of the Lincoln National Forest. On May 6, 1950, a second fire, the Capitan Gap Fire, also human-caused, started in the same general area. Together, these fires burned 17,000 acres of grasslands, ponderosa pine, and mixed conifer forest. The monetary loss to private and federal land was great, but the loss to wildlife, watershed, and environment was even greater. Do you ever think about that? Normally when there's a wildfire, like there have been so many fires out west and the recent one in South Carolina, we think of homes and the trees and the land, but do you think about the loss of wildlife, how these animals are burned and how their habitats are gone if they do escape the fire? On May 8th, 70-mile-per-hour winds made it impossible for the fire crews to battle the blaze any longer. 19 firefighters took shelter in a rock slide while the fire burned around them. The men survived, but were deeply shaken by the experience. Several fire crews had seen a little bear cub, alone and frightened, wandering around the burned area. It appeared that the cub had been separated from its mother during the fire and was now orphaned. On May 9th, one of the firefighters rescued the tiny bear clinging to a burned snag. The cub's paws and backside were badly burned and it was uncertain he would survive. Once in camp, firefighters tried to feed the little cub and dress his wounds. A local rancher, Ross Flatley, decided to take the cub to his home for the night. Early the next morning, New Mexico game warden Ray Bell, who had also been on the fire, retrieved the cub from the Flatley Ranch and flew him to Dr. Edwin Smith, a veterinarian he knew in Santa Fe, to care for the cub and tend his wounds. A press photographer for the Santa Fe, New Mexico newspaper snapped a few pictures of the cub while he was being cared for and ran the story in papers, the following day titled, "Teddy with a Hot Foot." When the cub had recovered sufficiently, Ray brought the cub to his home, where he and his wife Ruth cared for the bear for several weeks. As I had mentioned, the whole idea of this bear being part of the Forest Service advertisement had started back in 1944, and they had picked a bear as the official symbol for the forest fire prevention and named him Smokey, after the New York Assistant Fire Chief, Smokey Joe Martin. As a note, one of our friends was a fireman with the Forest Service in New York. Shout out to you, Wayne. Have you subscribed yet? If not, please subscribe. Anyway, Ray rechristened the little cub Smokey after the famous wildfire prevention bear, and the name stuck. To Ray Bell, the true story of a bear cub that had been burned in a human-caused fire had a natural connection to the Cooperative Forest Fire Prevention Program. But he had some work to do to convince other people that the idea was a good one. The rest of the story, as they say, is history. Dozens of people helped the story that connected a little bear cub from Capitan, New Mexico, to the National Cooperative Forest Fire Prevention Program. And in July of 1950, Smokey was flown to Washington, D.C., where he took up permanent residence. He was visited by millions of people from all over the world for over 25 years. When Smokey grew old and plans were made for his retirement, the people of Capitan wanted their bear to be returned to his hometown. Upon his death in November of 1976, Smokey was flown home and buried in what is now Smokey Bear Historical Park. Although the real Smokey Bear has passed away, his memory and important message on preventing careless human-caused wildfires still lives on. And we all know Smokey sang. The museum and the visitor center at the Smokey Bear Historical Park has exhibits on the true story of Smokey Bear, fire ecology, watershed health and restoration, wildland and urban interface, and the forest conservation. Now let's go outside and see Smokey's grave. There are also 3 acres of botanical forest and xeriscape gardens and an interpretive walkway. Because our visit was at the end of winter, there wasn't a lot of greenery or a lot of butterflies, but we did find it interesting to see the New Mexican Fallen Wildland Firefighter Memorial. The New Mexico Fallen Wildland Firefighter Memorial honors the wildland firefighters who have lost their lives in the line of duty while fighting wildfires in New Mexico. The park's bronze sculpture was created by Matt Glenn of Provo, Utah, and dedicated in May of 2019. Now for our questions and answers about Smokey the Bear. I call him Smokey the Bear. Some people call him Smokey Bear. What kind of bear was Smokey Bear? He was a North American black bear. Which came first? Finding Smokey, the living symbol, or creating the Smokey Bear posters? Did you pay attention in the video? If you did, you know that the posters began in 1944, and Smokey wasn't found until 1950. Who found Smokey? Smokey was found by a fire crew. They were from Fort Bliss, Texas. Speed Simmons was the crew boss, and nobody knows for sure who actually found the little cub. How old was Smokey when he was found? He was about 2.5 months old. How much did Smokey weigh when he was found? He weighed about 5 pounds. Where did Smokey live? We talked about that. As a tiny cub, Smokey lived for several weeks with the family of Ray Bell, a pilot with the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. Remember, Bell had flown the little cub to Santa Fe, New Mexico to be treated for his burns. Afterwards, arrangements were made to fly Smokey to his permanent home at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Was there ever a Mrs. Smokey the Bear? Yes, there was, and her name was Goldie. How old was Smokey when he died? Smokey lived to be 26 years old. The average lifespan of a black bear in the wild is 20 to 25 years. So Smokey lived a normal lifespan. Well, how did Smokey die? Well, Smokey died of old age on November 9th, 1976. Is Smokey really buried at Smokey Bear Historical Park? Yes, he is. After Smokey's death, his remains were flown back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then driven to Capitan. His final resting place is at the Smokey Bear Historical Park. Now the all-important question, was there only one Smokey Bear? The first Smokey Bear retired as the living symbol in May 1975. At that time, another orphan bear cub, Little Smokey, took his place at the zoo. Is Smokey Bear still at the zoo? No. After Little Smokey died on August 11, 1990, a decision was made to no longer have a bear as a living symbol of the fire prevention program. I really enjoyed learning about Smokey the Bear, or Smokey Bear. I hope you did too. I hope you have enjoyed this surprise stop to learn more about America's favorite bear, that's Smokey Bear. And remember, only you can prevent a forest fire. Ugly shoes on the ground. Unclassic road trip. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on more content related to fascinating geographical places, interesting historical landmarks, and travel guides to hidden gems across the U.S. From historical sites to wild forest, Smokey's message continues to inspire us all to appreciate and protect the incredible natural resources that make America so diverse and awe-inspiring. Be sure to hit the like button if you've enjoyed this exploration of Smokey the Bear and the incredible places tied to his legacy. Share with fellow travelers, history enthusiasts, and nature lovers who will appreciate the charm of America's geographical and historical treasures. Tell me in the comments below, what is your favorite forest?